But we go to David Icke of davidicke.com, who packed Wembley Stadium there in London in a historic event that got front page coverage in many British newspapers, and I wanted to get him on. I mean, they called him a kook. They called him nuts. They called him dangerous. They called him scum. The issue is I agree with about 98% of what David Icke says, and I know David believes what he's saying, and I know that David has been proven right. I mean, he said years ago on record that Chevelle, that big BBC reporter, he used to work at BBC, David Icke, that David's known since the 90s that Chevelle was part of a pedophile network. Boom, that's all been confirmed. Into the highest levels of government. He's talked about so much more, well, dozens of things that have come true in the last 20 years that he's been exposing things. He sold, I don't know, is it millions of books worldwide? Former champion goalie, BBC reporter in news and sports, gave it all up when he had an awakening, an epiphany, a Saul of Tarsus moment on his road to Damascus. And he joins us now. David, thank you for joining us. I want to get into the election. We'll also talk about your historic event and more in the 50 minutes or so we've got. We'll get Belzer on at 8 after next hour. But David, you just heard me go over all these headlines, all these things converging at once, military actions expanding, our government's using al-Qaeda in the Middle East, drones being launched, the world financial meltdown, children being given RFID chips, you know, to wear around their necks to go to school all over the world. I mean, it's like the dam has broken and evil is just rushing in. David Icke, your take on it all.
Well, the saddest thing, Alex, is that today in America doesn't really matter that much. I think you got on your website the puppet of choice, and this is what people worldwide need to understand if they're going to get a grasp and a grip on the world that they live in. Because all these celebrities, well, maybe not all of them, maybe not the Jay-Z's of this world, but all these celebrities and all these people that work in the lower ranks of the parties and get pulled out to, you know, people that rallies and knock on doors, they will believe staggeringly on the face of the evidence that there's some difference between the person they're supporting and the person they're opposing. And all they are, it literally is like the Pied Piper of Hamelin. You know, he's going along with the pipe and the children are following. Oh, I'm Democrat children. Oh, I'm Republican children. Oh, I'm Labour children. I'm Conservative children. And yet, when you go up the pyramid, up the structure of these parties, eventually you end up with the same people. America is a wonderful example, Alex, but this is what happens worldwide. But in America, you've got the Republican Party, and they're controlled quite demonstrably, not least during the Bush administration, by these people called the neocons, neoconservatives, people like Pearl and Kristol and John Bolton and Wolfowitz and all these people. And then you've got the Democratic Party, and they are controlled by a similar group, which I call the Democons. These are people like Brzezinski, Soros, Rahm Emanuel, David Axelrod. But then you go to the next level, and the Democons and the neocons answer to the same master. So at that point, it doesn't matter, that point in the hierarchy, and by this time you're out of the public arena and you're in the shadows, it doesn't matter who wins because they're the puppet of that always in power grouping time and time again, decade after decade, and it's happening all over the world. I mean, we've had a guy here, Alex, called David Cameron, who's come in. You know, there's a satirical magazine in Britain called Private Eye, and some years ago, they had a front page, which was brilliant, summed the whole thing up. It had a picture of Tony Blair, Labour Party, it says here, and a picture of David Cameron, Conservative Party, and the headline was World's First Face Transplant a Success, because he's just Tony Blair under another name. And this is what's happening all over the world. And, you know, it's like, yes, we have to look at the Obamas, and we have to look at the Romneys, and we have to look at these people who are put forward to give us the illusion of choice. But really what we need to really look at and really understand is this all-encompassing grouping that controls all of them. Because over the last 20 years or so, I've uncovered this network and how it works, and it's real simple. What you have is like a secret society also Satanism and pedophilia, funnily enough, version of a transnational corporation. So you've got someone like McDonald's or I don't know, Monsanto, any of these transnational corporations. McDonald's is a wonderful example. And you've got a headquarters somewhere in America. They dictate to the whole McDonald's global network. So wherever you go in the world, you're going in basically the same McDonald's because it's the same corporate image, it's the same corporate way of working, the same everything. This grouping, this global grouping has created a structure of secret societies, satanic societies, pedophilia networks, which operate in the same way. So you've got in Europe, places like the City of London, Rome, Brussels, Paris, Berlin, and of course the United States to a large extent as well. But Europe's the real epicenter, not governments at the center of this web. And they dictate to their subsidiaries. So in each country, you've got a network of families, interbreeding families under different names, secret societies, satanic networks, and pedophile networks. And that grouping, they have the job of introducing in their country, their sphere of influence, the centrally dictated agenda. So as I've traveled around the world, more than 50-odd countries in the last 20 years, what you find is the same blueprint in every country. And this is why you go from country to country and you see the same things being introduced at the same time, justified by the same excuses because it's centrally dictated. So what's happening in America today is that the next stage of the agenda of the grouping that controls America, but is dictated to by this global epicenter, this center of the spider's web, is now deciding. Well, it's decided before, but it's going to officially decide who is going to be its front man for the next 4 years. But that's all that's going on because the agenda will continue unchecked because that force that is in the background behind the Republicans and the Democrats is just following the same agenda, election after election, party change after party change. And that's why nothing changes. That's why the same agenda unfolds.
David, you're absolutely right. So how do we break people out of this? Because either people are waking up faster and faster or they're getting deeper into the trance.
Well, for me, the greatest statement that people could make today is not to vote. Well, there's one thing they should vote on, in my view, and that's Proposition 37 in California. If California today doesn't vote for GMO labeling, then the world is completely insane. So that I support that voting, but voting for Romney or voting for Obama. So people say, well, if I don't vote for Obama, then Romney will get in. I don't vote for Romney, then Obama will get in. It doesn't matter because the same grouping, this hidden grouping behind both parties is in control anyway. And by voting, we are giving credence to a rigged system. By not voting, you're saying, we know the system's rigged and we're not having it anymore. Because otherwise, I mean, it's like in Australia that that it's compulsory to vote. And all that does is give credence because people vote, not because they think they've got a choice most of the time, but they think, well, I get fined if I don't. They keep the voting levels up and therefore give credence to a rigged system. In countries where that's not applicable, I would say in Australia, it included, don't vote in mass numbers, what they're going to do. But the thing is, don't vote. I haven't voted for decades and decades and decades. And, it's not made any difference whether I vote or whether I don't vote because the same force has been in power, whether Labour or Conservatives.
Sure. I want to talk about how compartmentalization works and how they hired people in the system who are into different types of criminal activity so they can know that they're compromised. But why it's pedophiles at the top, they've obviously now have indicted the former head of Penn State for covering up. And, I mean, it's obvious that if Sandusky was raping children in broad daylight in the field house, which is college field house is like an airport. There's so many people in it. This was obviously open season on the children. It's always the same model. And I see it coming out daily now where whether it's TSA agents or Homeland Security or movie stars or politicians worldwide, they always run children's homes or children at risk. Well, no kidding. These are literal ghouls who want power so they can abuse and attack everybody. And this is what I've been saying about places like Bohemian Grove that goes on in some sectors of it. This is the stuff that's connected to Skull and Bones, that's just a feeder group to these satanic rituals. Every culture says there's bad people that like to come and, you know, chop folks up or drink their blood or sacrifice kids. Every culture sacrifices children. And if they can't get away with killing them, well, they'll rape them. That's the next best thing. But I want to get into that here for a moment. The fact this is just all coming out now, that's who runs things. And we see HBO a few months ago, and guys, don't show the news articles. I know it's in the news, but I'm not going to show it. That shows 4-year-old girls simulating sex with large sex toys. This is what they now put on during the family hour. Their religion is wrecking innocence. Their religion is abortion. Their religion is death, poisoning. This is what they're into. They're now calling for 2-child policies in the West. But I'm now ranting. Again, David Icke is our guest here. But I specifically wanted to talk about Prop 37. I've seen this over and over again. A month ago, it was 2-to-1 for it. Everybody wants to be able to read on a label to make their choice. It's very simple. And then they start running polls saying suddenly it's neck and neck, suddenly it's behind. Those are obviously fraudulent polls. They do that when they're getting ready to use the electronic machines, and California is totally run by fraud, to do that. And so people need to understand, folks, just because these polls say something doesn't mean it's the case. I have been in the Republican primary repeatedly, working in Austin to watch it, and seen Pat Buchanan getting 60% of the vote, and then they announced he had 2% at the end of the night. And I was walking around to all the tables as they put the Scantrons together, David, and shoved them in the machines back in 1996 and one other time. And I talked to everybody. It was Pat Buchanan more than 50%. They said he got like 2% in Travis County or something. I have witnessed it. So people need to grow up and understand that obviously people don't want GMO worldwide. We don't want it here either. You know, the GMO grows where it kills the honeybee. The honeybee can't eat what we're supposed to eat, or the bugs. So David, I'm ranting there, but just on those topics.
Well, a few things there, Alex. I'll say as someone that you know, spent an enormous amount of time in America over the last 20 years. But when I first realized, coming in from Britain, which is far from perfect, my goodness me, are you kidding? But when I came in and realized that you had voting machines, and voting machines were being introduced more and more, where you press the button and somehow electronically or through a computer your vote was registered. I mean, I was absolutely horrified. I mean, okay, you're sitting around a table and you say, okay, we're looking for suggestions on how best to rig an election. Well, the best way would be if we had voting machines, because then we'd just rig the computer. I mean, it's like, hello? And you know, it's done on the basis of, oh, no, it's the latest technology. Well, it's technology that is a piece of cake to rig. You know, there's some things that need to stay as they were before so that they can be much more easily or it'd be much more difficult to rig. But voting machines, I mean, hello, it's just asking for trouble. It's shocking to me. The other thing about Proposition 37 is this is just so simple what we're facing here in California. You've got a group of transnational, pure, undiluted, evil corporations who are devastating the health of America with genetically modified food, who are saying and they have put unbelievable amounts of money into a campaign to persuade you, whose health they are targeting, to vote against having labels on the food so people can have a choice about whether they're going to eat it or not. A campaign to stop them saying that genetically modified food is natural.
Imagine they make you say how much sugar's in it, but they won't let you know what's in an additive. They just call it an additive, and they tell you how they want to take care of you all day, when they knew in the 70s aspartame gave tumors to the monkeys and now is proven to make you obese. David, I have talked to countless people, family, business people, who said, man, I was 40, 50 pounds overweight. I went to Germany, or I went to Austria, or I went to all sorts of countries in Europe went to Russia. And they said, I drank every night. I ate like a pig, and I lost 40, 50 pounds eating like a pig and drinking every day when I was on a health nut here and couldn't lose weight. It's the additives. It's the crud. That's why, because the studies show that GMO across the board sterilizes and makes the rats obese and stupid.
Well, that's precisely what it's designed to do. And of course, you've got the growth hormones, which people are consuming that have been given to the animals. And this crazy idea that this stuff does not cross from crops into people and from animals into people. You know, one of the biggest explosions of health problems is food allergies.
While we fight to retain our liberty, while we fight to expose globalism, we have to realize we're talking about a very powerful combination of power.
Renowned author and expert Joel Skousen breaks down the globalist plan to shut down America and stage a new world war.
In one day, America will go from day to night. And if you haven't prepared in advance, there's not enough time to prepare in 24 hours, even if you saw it that early.
Coming to the InfoWar in November is our new documentary film presentation.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Joel Skousen, Strategic Relocation.
The freeways are going to be crowded, they're going to run out of gasoline, they're going to run out of food, and then they're going to start to go north and south of those freeways.
Joel Skousen is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
We talk about natural disasters, the health environment, we talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states.
Government is digging in for the organized, incremental collapse of society and world war.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come. Most people won't even be ready and won't be able to get out of town when any of these nuclear weapons fall, because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy.
What I tell people is that you do have time. Prepare wisely in advance.
This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Skousen and Alex Jones. You see that food allergies and the incidences of death from peanuts and now many other things are off the charts in countries that have the highest levels of GMO. And the king of GMO is the United States. Over 90% of our corn, GMO. And the list goes on and on. Now they're coming out with hundreds of other food crops, because you could eat beets, you could eat peas, you could eat rutabaga, you could eat hundreds of things, Brussels sprouts, that weren't GMO. Sure, they're inorganic, they got pesticide on them, whatever, but they're still got some good stuff in them. Not anymore. Everything, grasses, trees, all of it. And here's the deal. When you hear GMO, it doesn't mean splicing two plants together. Natural hybridization. We're talking about insect genes in the food. We're talking about animal genes. We're talking about pigs and cows that now have human genes that are going onto your breakfast and dinner table and lunch tables. I track this. I mean, they had human embryo clones 25 years ago and just admitted it a few years ago. This is all light years ahead. I've had Dr. Begich on, how these are binary weapon systems. People say, well, it's hurting the globalists. No, they will put one thing into us, but know that it's something else that activates it. And that's why everyone I know across the United States, almost everyone, gets deathly ill now from allergies, who have lived in certain areas their entire lives, eat the same diets, are healthy, take care of themselves, because you're even breathing during the summer and spring. You're breathing the pollen of GMO now. And a bunch of reports came out in the last 2 weeks of the National Institutes of Health. Aspartame study, 67% of female rats developed visible tumors at dozens of times I mean, just massive, thousands of percentage point increases faster than other rats. You can pull up that study. Just type in aspartame cancer. The link between aspartame and brain tumors, what the FDA never told you about artificial sweeteners, Natural News, links to the National Institutes of Health. Rat study ties artificial sweetener to weight gain. That's out of Reuters. This came out in 2008, because I just told them during the break, I said, hey, find me those studies. They found studies, other ones here. They just had one last week, National Institute of Health, a big, decade-long university study with rats. Ladies and gentlemen, they fed them the same caloric intake, but gave them aspartame, and the rats got fatter, got tumors, and were dumb, lethargic. Look at the public. We are under chemical and biological and radiological warfare. And who talked about it 20 years ago? David Icke, to cloud your brain computer. It's like throwing up, radar disturbances, so that radar-guided missiles can't come in or something. The globalists are doing this, and it's come out that the Chinese elite, I can show you the articles, the Monsanto factories, their engineers have their own private cafeterias from the workers. They will not eat GMO. All the royalty, randomly picked Dutch or British royalty, randomly picked Chinese government, Canadian government, German government. Type in German elite, eat organic. German elite, get clean vaccine. Type in Monsanto doesn't have GMO in their cafeteria. Type in Chinese Communist Party has secret farms for their food. That's London Telegraph. David, I've got you on here, but you say things that make me rant. In fact, if we can, we try to keep David maybe 10 minutes of the next hour, 15 minutes, and then get Belzer moved up a little bit, because I've just got so much I want to talk to him about. We're in the middle of this election, but I felt like this morning, word of honor, coming in here and talking about allergies and how it's the sign of that we're under chemical warfare, our immune systems are lowering. Everybody's basically getting the equivalent of AIDS now. Artificial HIV, that's what the studies are showing, is that's what all this is doing to us. That's why cancer is exploding, because our immune system finally just gives up. David Icke, I mean, we're being killed. How bad is the killing going to get? How many of us have to die before people wake up out of the trance that we're being soft-killed, David Icke?
Well, I've been saying for a long, long time now, way back into the early 90s, that one of the great prime targets of this whole conspiracy is the human immune system, because it's very simple. You can do this to the body, you can do that to the body, but if the immune system's strong, well, it's got a racket and it's hitting the ball back. But if you can dilute, destroy, and undermine the immune system, then not only can the things that you're throwing at it, you'll manufacture this or manufacture that, get through, but actually so can things that couldn't get through before, like so-called normal things that the immune system will deal with easily. And another thing about the immune system and allergies is that because the immune system is reacting to threats to the body, what I would call threats to the operating system, then if you can put into food things that the immune system picks up as a threat, and my goodness me, where do you start with the stuff we call food today? Then the immune system is going to see that food that you're consuming as a threat, and it is going to attack it. And thus you get the whole food allergy going. And there's another big angle to this, very important one, and that is that some of this genetically modified stuff is genetically modified to have its own insecticide. And this insecticide punches holes in the bodies and the intestines of insects, and it's part of the way it kills them. And so because they say, oh no, but when humans consume it, it doesn't pass over. Well, yes, it does, you liar or idiot, depending what level of the structure you're talking from. It does, and what it's doing, it's punching holes in the human intestine. And when normal foods or foods that would have never had a problem with before get through into the main body, if you like, then that's not where they should be. And thus the immune system picks up that food in the wrong place as a threat, and that goes into the immune system's database. And when the next time you eat that food and it enters the body, the immune system goes, you know, alarm bell, danger, danger, and now suddenly you're immune to you've got a problem with that food, an allergy to that food that you never had before. This is how it's working. And you know, we talked at length for many years about the cull. They want a massive cull of the global population. Well, this is one of the key ways they're doing it, because it's cumulative. But with GMO, as we're now seeing, with the catastrophic effects on American health in so many ways since this stuff really started dominating the diet, because of course you get it in corn, you virtually got it into almost everything. It's cumulative, yes, but it's a quickening cumulative, because it's starting to affect people in a very, very negative way faster and faster, because of course once your immune system's undermined by GMO, then it's undermined to be hit by the next lot of GMO and the next lot, and the GMOs getting more and more power over rewiring the genetics of your body, while your immune system is getting battered into submission. This is what's happening. And it's so important. America, they are killing you. They want to kill all of us, or the vast majority of people. But in Europe, you know, although they want the same thing, there's more resistance here, and thus they're finding it more and more difficult to get it in. But that's
and by the way, David, like
here as well.
Exactly, like a military, though. They've caught them in Brazil and all over. Monsanto and others will go, even when it's illegal, and will plant little crops next to growth belts to infect things. And they've bragged before. I've seen them in National Geographic saying, our plan is to take over where you don't have a choice. And it's the same company that brought us aspartame, that brought us Agent Orange, that buried dioxin, you know, in neighborhoods. It's you know, evil is their business. But expanding on that, I remember you more than a decade ago saying this is meant to rewire our genetics. Big studies just came out, a couple of them this year, proving that GMO penetrates the cell walls with the new DNA in the plants. And there's also viruses, so it's RNA, and is causing mutations and rewriting us. And of course, none of this is on accident. Why does every GMO in studies end up sterilizing rodents and end up giving them cancer? Because they're stacking traits. We're told about one trait. That's why so many times the GMO doesn't even do what they tell the farmers it will, because it is a deployed weapon system.
That's exactly what it is. It's a deployed weapon system to attack the human immune system, rewire us genetically, and also there's a two-pronged attack in terms of dramatically reducing the world population. One is killing people, and one is making them increasingly infertile, so more people don't come along at the other end. And then, you know, and there comes a point. I mean, this is what catches people out. People still see the human population growing worldwide, but or at least that's what the figures tell us. But there comes a point, a tipping point, where the cumulative impact of all of this, because this is only part of it. You've got the chemtrails, which have multi-reasons for being there, and one is its effect on human health. You have the electromagnetic soup that people live in, which is dramatically affecting human health, because we have electromagnetic fields. You distort them, you distort the body, which is an expression of that field. And therefore, there comes a point where the cumulative buildup of all this is a tipping point, and that's when lots and lots of people start to you know, die. And people are going, hey, what's going on? People are dying in these large numbers. But it's been building up for decades, mate. It's not.
And now they're good at no one even noticing 3,000% increases in the U.S. in general cancers, over 10,000% in pediatric. The U.S. leading the world in neurological, brain disorders, early onset diabetes, up multi-thousand percentage. And now they're just saying, get ready for half the population to have diabetes. And no one ever asks, why is it happening? It's always, oh, the government will tell you what you can eat now, and the school lunch is nothing but GMO. Oh, but aspartame is good for you. Listen, expanding on this, David, now we knew this was coming. Now I'm seeing headlines every day in newspapers going, hey, infertility's off the chart. DNA's damaged for some reason. Don't worry. You're now going to go to the government under government health care in Europe and here, And they're going to even create a baby out of 3 parents if they have to. And they're going to cut out all the bad traits, David. So things will have to be designer. They wreck our fertility, make us ill, and then we have to go to them to the genetic augmentation to even live or survive or procreate. But in that, we give up our procreation. Now the genetic engineers are in full control. This is the master plan.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I've been writing for a long, long time about ancient genetic manipulation of the human form. And what the ancients talked about in terms of the manipulation of human genetics then is simply another expression of what's happening now. The force that's behind all this is obsessed with human genetics, not least because it knows that human genetics is an information field or an information construct, an energetic information construct. And the nature of that construct and the information it contains fundamentally impacts upon the person's perception of reality, perception of self, perception of the world. And therefore, they are manipulating this so that we are constantly having our perceptions squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. So we get more, when I say we, the people that succumb to this, they get dumber. The range of things that they're actually interested in and take notice of get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. It's like having looking out of your eyes and seeing a massive panorama. That's the natural state of human awareness. But suddenly it's getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And now, instead of seeing a panorama, you're looking down the end of a telescope in terms of what you can perceive, what you're interested in, what you can understand. This is what's happening. And the more that they can squeeze that range of perception, the more they can operate all around us and do whatever they like, and that perception will not see what's going on, because it does. If you're looking through a telescope doesn't have peripheral vision. It has the little dot at the end that you're looking at, and where the conspiracy goes on is in the peripheral vision. So it wants us focused on dots so that we don't see the greater picture of how the other dots exist and fit together.
Sure, everything.
So concentrate on your game, concentrate on your family, concentrate on your job, concentrate on whatever, but don't have peripheral vision. And what they're doing, Alex, is genetically and through chemical means is that they are also squeezing the range of our perception, so that, you know, we're just looking down the end of a pipe, down the end of a telescope, and they can do what the hell
television.
No one will see it.
To a television giving us all these destructive messages. Again, folks, I thought we'd have David Icke on as part of the 2012 election coverage here of Puppet A or Puppet B, so that we could bring some sanity to the insanity. And so that's pretty funny, because the mainstream media likes to call David Icke insane. He's probably one of the sanest people I know, and has said some incredibly wild things over the years that turned out to be true, like giant pedophile rings run the British government, and naming Mr. Savelle, which now it's come out was running a giant operation. But notice we're not seeing the more arrest happening. Now, we will get more into the election itself and all the things that are happening and the threats of violence in the next hour. And we have Richard Belzer, TV and movie star, who's also knows about the New World Order and is an author exposing it, joining us. And we will get to some calls. But tonight, 5 to midnight Central, there's free audio and video streams you can get right now at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Please send this out to everybody you know and say, hey, you want to get some real coverage of what's going on, you want to break the matrix in this paradigm, go to Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Now, David, expanding on all this, just briefly, because we're about to go to break, and time always moves so fast when you're with us. What is happening over in England? Because we're having our own pedophile scandal with the children's groups. It's been well known the CPS routinely kills kids and don't even get in trouble here in the U.S.
Exactly.
I mean, there are so many thousands of scandals came out 5-6 years ago that 3,000 plus kids were missing that CPS had. It was even on CNN, and they found a bunch of them dead. Then the story was shut down. Is this stuff brought out from time to time by the establishment during key blackmailing periods? Because it's always been going on. Why is it surfacing now?
Well, I think there may be a number of reasons for that, but between about 1997 and well into 2000s, 2005, 6, I did just the most fantastic amount of research worldwide on pedophilia, Satanism, and this whole stuff that we're talking about now. Mind control, massively important thing to understand, and why people, including politicians, do certain things. And what I found, Alex, is that, you know, that structure I talked about earlier of the McDonald's type transnational corporation structure and the secrets, the three things, I went into this in detail at Wembley, the three recurring themes that are the cement that hold this whole thing together. And for instance, hold the one-party state together. Stay there.
We're going to hear about those three things on the other side with this intriguing interview with David Icke, and he'll explain what interlocking corporations are for those that don't know.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done's been right.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's coming out in the news all the time that Homeland Security, FBI, ATF, CPS, TSA, it's the same in every other country. They're always finding dungeons full of toddlers hanging from meat hooks or in cages, and it's always just shut down. The Texas Youth Commission was running stuff like that, and the state police tried to stop it, and they fired the director. I mean, so the good news is the Texas Rangers were good guys and tried to stop it, and they just got shut down. And that's what's so incredible. But David Icke, now more than ever, the real evil at the top is being exposed. So I want you to get into the 3 points that cement all this together, and I agree with you. I mean, you can call it Satanism, whatever you want. You know, these guys believe they're communicating with these entities. You call them aliens. People say you're a kook. You call them demons. Well, you can go to the Baptist church and give a speech. But the point is, regardless, I've studied them. They think they are. So they might as well be. I mean, you are what you think you are in a way. But, I mean, David, what are the three things that cement it? And what do you make of it starting to come out? Because I know a lot of this is coming out because good people are blowing the whistle and are standing up against it.
Well, you know, the reason I talked in the Money Bomb show about the big reason why there's this obsession with sex and abuse of children. It's to do with a much bigger picture. But if we keep it in the level of the political system and the system in general, they are wonderful people, pedophiles, to use in positions of power when you want to control that position of power, because let's not forget for a second the scale of blackmail that goes on worldwide, whereby once you compromise someone with this, and you are providing their children for them, etc., etc. Well, yeah, you'll keep doing that as long as they keep passing the legislation and pushing the agenda that you demand that they do. Otherwise, they know that in 24 hours or less, you could be completely finished and, in fact, facing a very long jail sentence. So what is happening in Britain at the moment, what is coming out, is classic. And this is not Britain, this is worldwide, but Britain is a massive center of all this because it's a global center of the whole cabal. Jimmy Savile was a BBC presenter, a disc jockey. I don't know what he did, really, but he was a very strange man. But the BBC protected him when he was abusing children on BBC premises, after BBC programs, in BBC dressing rooms and all this other stuff. And it never came out. And he always used to boast that he was untouchable and he could do anything he wanted. Well, the reason he could do that is that it's coming out now. Since a British television program talked to some of his victims, and this great explosion of other people have come forward and said what he did to them. And we're looking at a paedophile of just colossal proportions. But that's him as a paedophile. But the reason he was protected was not that, but that he was providing children for the rich and famous, including royalty.
And by the way, that's now coming out that he's best buds with the top royalty, and he would brag, the reports are saying, that I can do whatever I want, I get things done, and he would call the little kids his little slaves, and now it's coming out that he was also hanging out in mortuaries. I mean, and you look at him, we'll put him up on screen for TV viewers. If not, just search the term Jimmy Savile, folks, and get ready. A weird, twisted old man with rotten teeth sitting around in his underwear with photos taken on the news in gold jumpsuits. I mean, he is the archetype in the Encyclopedia Britannica next to pedophile, next to demon. I mean, I would imagine Satan looks like Jimmy Savile. I'm sorry, David Icke.
Well, the thing is that he was providing children for the rich and famous, and it included royalty.
Sick of the globalists, eugenicists, control freaks adding poison to your water and laughing as you get sick and die? Start purifying your water with ProPure. My friends, I've done a lot of research, and the best gravity filter out there, bar none, is ProPure, and it's available discounted at Infowars.com. Its filters are silver impregnated to prevent bacterial growth. There's no priming required. It's NSF 42 certified. Optional fluoride filters can reduce fluoride up to 95%. Easy to set up and use. Doesn't require electricity. Purify water from lakes, streams, ponds, and wells. This filter system leaves in beneficial minerals, which is key. Save money by not buying bottled water and avoid BPA that leaches from the plastic. ProPure is the best gravity-fed filter out there. It's what my family uses. Infowars.com already has the lowest price on ProPure. But if you add the promo code WATER at checkout, you get an additional 10% off at Infowars.com. You can also call to order 888-253-3139. If you're watching on TV, you're seeing the headline, Jimmy Savile met to lead sexual abuse complaints investigation. And, of course, you know that is obviously full of operatives for this cult. But if you look at that image, CJ and they're running the board made the point that that's what kids would call the bad man. Little kids would run from this guy, but he helped run the children's charities and would visit them, just like Jerry Sandusky. And that's who these people are. I've only got David for this segment and part of the next, and then I'll give you a recap on the election and then go to Richard Belzer. But, David, thank you for coming on. I know you're a busy guy. When we come back in the next segment, I want to talk a little bit more about geopolitical stuff and also the Wembley event that I know sold out, Wembley, I can't pronounce anything right. Briefly on that, because I want to say congratulations. You really scared the establishment with that. They absolutely gave you front page and a lot of newspapers freaking out. And I noticed almost all the comments, because I spent like an hour reading them on 3 different articles I saw. Almost everyone agreed with you. So, again, they're not in total control. That's why they're turning up the game. But you were getting into the pedophile networks and why they use them. David. Do we have David? Can we pot him up? Or did we lose his Skype? His Skype, we were just talking to him during the break and he could hear us. David, can you hear us? All right, I wanted him to be able to. I
can, yep.
Okay, great. We've got you back. David, finishing up what you were saying at the end of the last segment.
Well, the thing is that what's happening in Britain is like what's coming to light is the blueprint of what happens in virtually every country, and certainly in the United States and Canada. Canada is obviously very connected to Britain because of the Commonwealth and what have you. And Jimmy Savile was providing children for the rich and famous. When you do that and you keep your mouth shut, then you are protected. And this is why people are saying, well, there was this police investigation or that one, and then it didn't go anywhere. And then this person said that. And why did they? Somebody must have known. Well, they did. The other thing is that I said in the night, in the time that I talked about being a pedophile, I said that he was a necrophiliac. He's sex with dead bodies. This is why he used to volunteer to be a porter.
And that's now in the news years after you talked about it.
It got him into the mortuaries. Now, what has happened now as this whole pedophile focus has expanded and exploded is that there's a television program called Newsnight. I used to work for it, funnily enough, years and years and years ago. It's a current affairs program late at night, and they were putting out, or some people from the program were putting out a few days ago, that night they were going to name a pedophile who was very much a well-known political name in the Thatcher government. And when it got to it, they did the item, but they didn't name him. And now it's all who is it? Well, I know who it is. I've known it is since the 1990s. So we're now looking at a situation where they have announced, Cameron's announced, the Prime Minister, they're going to have a reinvestigation into a massive abuse of children at children's homes in Wales, which has already been investigated in the 1990s. But part of that investigation was to stop the victims naming the famous people involved. They were blocked and they were not allowed to go into the final report. And the person who set that report up, this brings us to the relevance to many, many things that are happening, was or set that inquiry up with those closed briefs to stop the total truth coming out, was a man called William Hague. He was Secretary of State for Wales at the time, which is why he was the one that instigated the inquiry when it came out. He's now the Foreign Secretary. He, in league with Cameron, is deciding whether to support NATO bombing in Libya.
Amazing. Stay there. I want to get into some geopolitical issues and your event. Fittingly, we have David Icke with us. They're on the line during election 2012 here in the United States, because the very same globalist interest run this country that run England. And if you turn on the news now, you see them announcing we're run by foreign banks, global governance is in charge, world government is here. But aren't we lucky technocrats are now appointing, who runs all these countries? So we need to get past the illusion. Sure, you can get sucked into debating who will be worse or who will be better, but that's part of the illusion. David Icke, who do you think is going to win the U.S. puppet election? I mean, you've worked for the BBC, you've been the head of the Green Party, you've been in the U.S., I don't know, probably 100 times. Does it even matter? I mean, who do you think the establishment is going to put back in tomorrow?
Well, they'll put the person in that they think will best serve their interests. What I would say is that they do tend to like two-term presidents, because they can run something over 8 years without having to change the personnel in the middle of it.
Without facing re-election.
Yeah, without facing, of course, as people in America well know, once you don't face re-election, then, what have you got to lose, whatever you do? It's then craziness on steroids and the agenda on steroids once you cross that line into, I don't have to win another election. So it's likely that Obama on that basis will be who they want. But having said that, Romney's perfect as well, because Romney would do anything. I mean, Romney at least someone like Obama has at least to play some lip surface to the fact that he's supposed to be a man of the people. Whereas Romney, he doesn't have to do that. I mean, you only got to see some of the things he said in the election campaign. I mean, he'll just do anything. He seems to have, they're both heartless people, or they wouldn't be there. They don't want heart open people running for election. That's their worst nightmare. But Romney, he bomb Iran, no problem. No, don't even question. Bomb anybody. I mean, and squeeze people and put them on the street and destroy their lives financially. Oh, not a problem to him. And it will be the same with Obama. But he's got a bigger sell on that.
Well, here's the deal. Looking at all the polls and people on the street, people don't like Obama, but they put him in 4 years ago. I think he did get popularly elected, because people are like, we're sick of Bush, we'll put you in. Record numbers of white folks voted for him, also, quote, proving to themselves they weren't racist, showing that they did have racist tendencies. They thought they had to vote for somebody because they were black instead of because they were a patriot or because they were what they thought was good. But I think one reason they may put Obama in, and I said last week that I thought Romney will be the real winner, looking at all the numbers, is because they can divide people along racial lines. Earlier, right. I was doing a search before you came on because a caller told me about it. N-word, in fact, I'm not going to say it on air, but it was N-word MSNBC. And the guy brought it up and said, what do you think? And I didn't know this had been going on for a month and a half. I went and looked it up. They get on there and call anyone that supports smaller government who's black, they call them an N-word on MSNBC. But the point is that David, they openly now over here say you need to riot if Romney is elected. MoveOn.org puts out videos saying this, showing, old white ladies saying we're going to burn things down, showing old black ladies saying they're going to physically attack Romney. The government lets people on Twitter call for this. I'm concerned. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they're certainly trying to get some type of civil unrest going, I guess, for further divide and conquer. So that's one more thing they like about Obama is they can say, oh, you don't like government-run health care? You're a racist. Your comments on that, David?
Well, yeah, it's like, if you're a conjurer doing a magic trick, then you want people looking in one direction while you're doing the trick bit in another place where where you've diverted the eyes away from. So the more divide and rule that they can create, the more focus, like on this phony war between Obama supporters and Romney supporters and all that stuff, black, white, sky blue, bloody pink, the more they can focus people on that stuff, the more, again, once you focus on something, you've lost peripheral vision. And thus they can do what they like in the peripheral vision, and you're not seeing it because you're so focused on a meaningless fight. So, I mean, obviously anything that they can bring about divide and rule for is perfect for them. Because, at Wembley last weekend, 6,000 people came together with open hearts and open minds, and there were thousands more watching live on the internet. And when you feel that energy, and when you see those people who have refused to be divided and ruled. They were black, white, they were young, they were elderly, they were every walk of life you can think of. They come together as one, and it was unbelievable. The conspiracy could not work in that room because of the people, or that arena, because of the people's mentality. And that's the nightmare they want. This is why anyone that stands up over the years and said we must come together and love each other, I mean, bang, bang, gone. They don't want that. They want people who they can play off against other people and create war, create conflict, create on all levels of life. That's what they want. And we must stop giving it to them, because if we do, then the whole deal will go on and continue to go on. And I'd say that this, Alex, in the time we've got left, about this paedophile thing back here, this guy, William Hague, the Foreign Secretary, needs to be questioned on why that Welsh inquiry into the massive paedophilia in Welsh children's homes was given the brief that it did, and therefore stopped these kids talking about what happened to them. And this is the big thing: if the police investigation does not knock on the door of Buckingham Palace over this whole Savile and the wider implications that have followed, then it's a cover-up, because the British royal family are fundamentally involved in this, right to the top, right up to the people like Prince Philip and all these other people. Because you look at him, I mean, you put the picture on the screen, Alex. You describe what he looks like. This man is an aging, sleazy disc jockey, right? And he had complete access to the British royal family, and they used him as an official go-between Prince Charles and Princess Diana when they were falling out in their marriage. And now it's come out this week that he was advising Prince Charles on aids to employ. Why is this man so close, or was so close for so long, to the British royal family? The answer to that will bring the British royal family down.
Wow, very, very dangerous stuff. And remember you years ago saying this about Savile and many others, and it's just like the Sandusky situation. Happy Valley was a child torture and rape valley in Pennsylvania, and it's just everywhere, because that's the type of scum that wants power and craves it, and that's when you get tyranny. Every culture in every time had the elite demanding your firstborn to be sacrificed to idols. Every culture got royalty that loved to literally bathe in the blood of children. If people don't know about that, it's well known, Transylvania and other areas. Every culture had the legends, not just the history, of the elites wanting to grab your kids. Look out. Every authoritarian system tries to come and grab your kids, because that's what they're into. These are demons. Whether you believe in God or not, these are demons who want to torture children. And there is no doubt about them. They're all around us. They have the TSA training us to have our children abused now. They are pushing pedophilia on mainstream television, HBO, showing 4-year-olds doing things I can't even say on the radio. This is a war. I listen to some of the comedy radio shows, just tuning through now, and now it's a cutesy thing to make jokes about pedophilia. That's the new cool thing. And they're trying to turn us into them. And they are bombarding us scientifically. David, I've got some stuff to talk to you about. I'm going to call you here in about 45 minutes when this show ends. But I really appreciate, we got Richard Belzer coming up. I appreciate your time. In closing, before we go to break and get Richard Belzer on about his new book and the election and some of the things he's been saying, where do they want to take us? Just quick answers. We've got like 2 minutes. The imploding economy, the wars, the admissions our governments run Al-Qaeda. Where are things going in that temporal range in your view?
Well, the whole area that we're going into is to throw so many shocks at the human population from so many directions that basically we look to someone to save us. And the idea is that the cabal comes forward to save us. This is the only way of sorting out the economic situation, world central bank, single world currency and all that stuff. The only way to stop all this conflict is more and more control. And this is an important point. You mentioned a few minutes ago, Alex, about bringing technocrats in. In this whole pedophilia thing involving the political system of Britain and wider afield, it's important to remember this as this stuff comes out. They want us to have so much disdain for the political system that we will be much more open to what they've got in Italy now, one of the major countries in the world, of a technocrat banker running the country as prime minister, and the whole cabinet in Italy being technocrats. We've had a technocrat in Greece as well at one point, Lucas Papademos, and all these people are connected to Goldman Sachs and stuff.
And the media is saying it's good.
Yeah, this is the point. Let me just emphasize this to finish. Pedophilia, which is coming out involving political people, it doesn't end and begin with political people. Those behind in the shadows are into this stuff big time and even more deeply.
Yeah, they're into murdering.
Those people in the shadows are the same people that control the technocrats.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.